If I'm being really honest, I don't think that probably most of you watching have probably ever heard of this film, but today on the channel I'm going to be talking about an animation kids film called Rally Road Racers that is now available to check out in the theater. Is it worth your time? Well, let's discuss it. Rally Road Racers is racers competing in a high-stakes rally along the famous Silk Road trade route. The film stars J.K. Simmons, Chloe Bennet, Sharon Horgan, Jimmy O. Yang, John Cleese, Catherine Tate, Lucy Liu, and was directed by Ross Venokur, and he's done films like Charming and Acorn's Operation Crackdown. Rally Road Racers. Now, this is a film of many that dropped this week that really didn't have any promotion at all. I saw a trailer for most of these films last week as I was just looking as to what came out wide this week, and so I saw that an animation movie was coming out, and I was like, I'll go ahead and check it out. Sometimes I really do like smaller animation films, so I went ahead and gave this film a chance. And what I can say positive about this film overall is I did actually enjoy the animation for this. Now, it's not tip-top animation, and I think people in general, when they go into animation films, they have to understand that not all these studios that are doing animation films, you're not going to get Pixar animation, you're not going to get Disney animation. You have to kind of make your expectations be checked at the door when going into an animation film. And so I knew that going into this film that the animation, obviously it's not going to be Pixar animation, but I found the animation to be fine in here. I found that the voice acting was fine here. I would say with this kind of animation kids film, now I went into going into this film, I did a back-to-back screening. I watched Hypnotic and then I watched this film, and I went at 8:30 at night watching this film, and I was the only one in the theater watching this film, and rightfully so because there was no promotion for this film. Dolores here is played by Jimmy O. Yang, and he lives with his grandmother, and there is this toad that is a racing champion, and he wants to demolish their village that they're in. And so the Loris in here, he is going to challenge the Toad in a 4-stage race, and then if he wins, he gets the deed back to his village. So that's really the simplistic plot of this film. And I would say that if you're an adult and you're going to watch this film with kids, know that this film, it's very simplistic in its plot. It doesn't really go off in any kind of twists or turns. It's very straight-lined in its narrative. And the film, it's a lot of racing. So if kids really like racing, they're really going to like this. I will say that there was a really cool scene that had the song Take On Me, and they used this black and white animation style during that scene, and I really did enjoy that scene. And some of the other kinds of music in here, like they have Ballroom Blitz in here, some of the music in here, it's pretty good, and I think that part of the film, it's very entertaining. The characters that are in this, I don't really think that a lot of them have a lot to bring to the table. Now, the Loris, he has a friend that is a goat played by J.K. Simmons. He likes to talk in bumper stickers. He makes bumper stickers, and he also likes to chew on metal. And I think his character wasn't too bad, but I think a lot of the other characters, especially a lot of the side characters, they aren't really fleshed out a lot, but they have a few jokes here to add into the film. Now, the humor in this, it's a little bit outdated because they talk humor about like hashtags, selfie sticks. They have one joke where they make fun of the Fast and Furious. It's called The Fast and the Furies. So they have that kind of kiddish kind of humor here. And I think the children, as far as what age group would watch this film and would enjoy it, I'm thinking more so along the lines of 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. Negatives that I can say about this film is the overall racing itself. It does get old after a while, and it seems very repetitive after a while because they're going from stage to stage, and there's 4 stages. So it just seems very repetitive going to each stage, and it doesn't feel like it really has any variety to each stage too much. The villain is a toad and played by John Cleese, and his motivation is he's a really good racer and he wants to demolish this town, but there really isn't much for him to really be much of a villain, I would say. And he also has these toad minions, which obviously we've seen minions in obviously Despicable Me, so that doesn't really have any, I would say, variety to it. It's something that we've obviously already seen. And I also felt like overall the movie as a whole, it just doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table. I felt like it was kind of a bare minimum kind of film. I felt like a lot of the characters, They don't have a lot really going on, and of course most of the movie is just focused on these races, and so a lot of the humor in that is towards racing. And I think overall, older kids, it's really hard for them to want to pay attention to a movie like this because of the simplistic nature of it. I also found it kind of weird that it took place in the desert and the desert was pink. I'm not really sure why the color choice was pink, so that was kind of weird about the film. I did learn that lorises are actually very slow, and I didn't know what an actual loris was, so I had to look it up after watching this film. And I also learned in this film that seahorses, the males actually give birth. I did not know that, so that was something really cool that I learned. I will say, as far as an overall consensus for this film, this is an underdog story that you've seen very much in kid films time and time again. It isn't reinventing any wheel, and I don't think it's a film that you really should rush out and go to a theater. I think this is one of those films that if little Johnny is at home and they're a 5 or 6 year old and they've watched everything and you're tired of watching the same stuff on Disney Plus over and over and over, you throw this film on to have something fresh for them to watch. But I don't really think it's a film that they'll be saying, oh, I want to watch this film time and time again. As far as an overall score for this film, I would give it a 2 out of 5. I thought that it had some things that I liked about it, but overall, as far as another watch that I would give this film, probably not. It just didn't really hold my attention, I would say, throughout the entire film, and it isn't a film where I feel like I would want to go back and revisit it. But thank you guys for listening to this review. Let me know in the comments, have you checked out this film? And if you haven't checked it out, is it something that you're going to check out? Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys on my next review.